Kathy is actually going to stay here a little bit later than 8 if we need to, and certainly they're not going to come up here and chase us out of the room. So when we're done, you can come over and talk to Kathy, you can go back over and talk to Robbie and to Keith and everybody else. Just hang out. You know, nobody can chase us out of here. So Kathy, I want to thank you very much for showing up here.
All right.
You are on.
Okay, I guess I'm on. Well, good evening, everyone. How are you feeling? It's like late on a Saturday night. I'm amazed that everybody showed up on a holiday. That's impressive. So I could really talk about just about anything. So I would like to get an idea of what you want to hear. So I was just got a feeling of who here is a landlord, and anybody got a few? Okay. Mostly California? California? Okay. Anyone out of state? Okay, where?
Ohio.
Ohio. How long?
3 years.
3 years, okay. All right, anyone who likes apartment investing? Okay. All right, Linda. All right, commercial?
6 months.
Okay. Land development? Anyone? Builders? Contractors? Okay. All right, so I'm going to give a presentation about what I normally talk about, but markets are changing really quickly, I think we talked about. So one of the things that you just got to do in this business is know how the markets are changing, understand cycles, or else you can get caught in last year's model that doesn't work this year or next year. So that's one of the things that Real Wealth Network, my company, is about, is really understanding these markets. And because I got caught in one, I saw my parents get caught in a market they didn't know was changing, and how many millions did just over the last 5 years not really knowing. And even now, with markets changing so quickly and people hearing the news that prices are up, so now they think this is the time to buy, when in fact maybe we're in a bubble in some areas. So what does it take to really understand these market shifts? So what Real Wealth Network started as, and is now, is a company that is trying to find the best deals and understand the markets and help other investors understand that as well and find deals as well. So we have a real estate investment group in Northern California, like I said, even though I live down here in Southern California, fly up there a lot. But we have a big group like this up there. So you can rest assured, I'm not here to sell you anything. I don't even have any flyers. I didn't even think about bringing any. But you know, we talked a couple weeks ago, and I'm here. So you can breathe. Not going to sell anything here. All right. But what I'm going to talk about is kind of what we're known for, even though it's changing. But what we've been known for many years is helping people build wealth through single-family homes. And so I'm going to talk about that first, and then about some other ways of investing too, because again, the markets are changing. It was a little easier to get great deals about 5 years ago, but you can still do it. So imagine owning a rental home, free and clear, that paid you $1,000 a month after all expenses. That'd be all right. Okay, so $1,000 a month, it's pretty good. Now imagine having another, and another. And now you've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How about 10 homes, all paid off, paying you $1,000 a month after all expenses? Would that be all right?
Retirement.
That'd be a model. You wouldn't think, being a landlord is terrible, I hate it. If you had this going on, I mean, if you had an occasional vacancy, you'd be like, that's right, I made $9,000 this month, right? So does this exist? People do this?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And in fact, my mom's pastor has this approach. And this was always my mom's dream, and this may be why I'm passionate about real estate. I don't know, I kind of wonder where this stuff comes from. But I used to, when I was a little girl, I'd always hear my mom saying, we should buy more of these, you know, because I was born and raised in Menlo Park, but the Silicon Valley, before it was the Silicon Valley. And homes were $100,000 then. And I remember my mom saying, you know, now it's $200. We should probably buy more of these. And my dad, oh, Barbara, you know, oh, that's crazy. Crazy talk, you know, and those homes are, what now? 4 million. I mean, you know, Menlo Park, well, maybe $1 million for those 100,000. No, they're more. They're like $2 million now. So mom was right. So that's the moral of the story is listen to your wives, right? But my mom's pastor did do this, and he is the same age as my mom, and guess what? My mom is renting from him. So if that tells you anything about how things worked out, that he bought houses as a pastor on a pastor's salary, but bought one every year, and over the years paid them off to where he's at a point in life in retirement where he owns 10 homes free and clear, has no retirement from his church, but he doesn't need it, does he? So this is basically the very simple philosophy that we've had for years and have been trying to show people how to build a retirement when you can't really trust anything else in life these days in that regard. Where does Real Wealth Network come from? It's really very simple. It's living life on your terms, which is having the ability to have that passive income coming in so you can do whatever you want. You can live your dreams. You could paint, you could do art, you could do sports, whatever it is, you have the passive income. So for me, that's simply owning a home, being able to afford whatever my kids want if it's good for them, if it's going to develop them. College tuitions, this is my daughter who graduated from high school, and of course I, like many people, was trying to figure out how we're going to pay for the college. Fortunately, she chose Chico State, so we're okay there. Vacations, you know, I always wanted to be able to take the kids to Europe. I'm doing that this summer. I'm very excited. I know this is simple, but again, for me, real wealth was being able to buy organic food. And there was a time in my life when I couldn't afford to do that, and that's not real wealth. I want to be able to eat and feed my family well. Caring for aging parents. How many of you are in this situation? And how are you going to do it? Right? So for me, this was my definition of real wealth is being able to live life on my terms and would be able to afford these things. And these may or may not be on your list. You may have a whole bunch of other things, but I'm guessing a few of these are on your list. And if there's one thing to take with you today, make the list. What would it truly mean to you to live a life of real wealth? Really living it on your terms. You could have it your way. Make the list. It's a great place to start. All right, and that, at the end of the day, is freedom. Not having to be a slave to anybody else, or
Office politics,
or goodness, the government, although we can't really get away from that too much. Now, and then also being prepared for life's little surprises. So surprises can come in all sorts of shapes and forms. This was a surprise that happened to me. My boyfriend of 10 months took me out to, I got picked up in a limo out in the country, and then I saw this horse galloping towards me, and it was my boyfriend who was wearing red tights and those two. So I said yes. That was 17 years ago. We just had our anniversary. I know, it's kind of surprising I said yes, isn't it? No. Then more surprises, little ones, a dog, a family. This was a huge surprise. This is the first house that got me into real estate. My dad did invest. He ended up investing in an apartment. He didn't pay attention to it. He was a dentist. Dentists are notoriously terrible at investing. I don't know, are there any dentists here? So, but my dad, he just didn't pay attention. He was busy. And so he didn't pay attention to this apartment. It ended up being sold, and he didn't get so much as a letter. And after years of depreciation, he would have had to pay enormous gains on that property. And he had 30 days to exchange. And anyone done a 1031 exchange and know the stresses of that? Okay, he had 30 days by the time the letter got to him and he read it. And then he called me in a complete panic and said, I've got to exchange, I don't know what to do. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about, I was brand new to this, but I'll find a property, how about I live in it and be your tenant? And this is what we found. We were able to rent this little in-law suite out, and then this was another entrance, and so we turned it into a triplex. And we're able to actually pay less than we had been paying renting. And we didn't get to own it, we were just helping Dad out. Because he was at an age where he didn't want tenants anymore, but we could be his tenant. And of course, when he passed on, I was able to inherit that house, and all of those taxes were gone. Yeah, is that a beautiful thing? So, power of 1031 exchange. So this was my entree into real estate investing. It was really, like you said, helping my dad. I helped my dad out. He didn't have to pay the hundreds of thousands of dollars that he didn't have to the government, and I got this house. So then my husband ended up writing a book in that house, and that became very successful. So we were just on our way, and everything was great, and life was good, and I had 2 beautiful kids and a wonderful husband, and success was there. And he wrote the book on extreme success because he's the guy who jumps off things, and he's the first to bungee jump off of Half Dome. I'm pretty sure the first and only. Yeah.
Legally or?
No, totally illegally, yes. But there was no legal or illegal, because no one would think anyone would be dumb enough to do that. So it wasn't a law. It is now, I think. Yeah.
It's so hard to get the boy out of the man.
It is so true. He's actually turning 50 in next week, and he is going heli-skiing for 5 days. So I don't know if that sounds fun to you, to be in a snowstorm in a helicopter on the top of a mountain in the middle of nowhere. Sounds like a hell for me, but that's what he's doing. All right. So, but this really was the biggest surprise. And this was the letter from the doctor 10 years ago, about 10 years ago, that said that he had 6 months to live. And it was because they were wrong, because like I said, he's alive, and his birthday's next week, and everything's fine. But this was a surprise we got when he found out he had a melanoma, and that they thought it spread, and they were pretty sure it spread to his liver. And in most cases, people don't last when that happens. And so this was the news we got. And at the time, I had to figure out how to pay that $4,000 mortgage. You saw the house. It was an 8-bedroom house. And our deal was we'd cover the mortgage for Dad, until we inherited it, and cover all expenses and everything. And if indeed my husband had 6 months to live, I don't think he wanted to spend it working. So I had to figure out how to not be a stay-at-home mom anymore and make some money. So at the time, I had a show called, it wasn't called The Real Well Show, it was just a show I had on the radio. It was fun for me to do. And I turned that very quickly into a way to figure out how to make money. And that's what I did. I changed the name to The Real Well Show, and I just started interviewing people and figuring out how to make money. And what I found was what? 2 ways to make money. Being a business owner, real estate. And usually the 2 go together. Usually people have a business and then put their money in real estate, or their real estate is their business. But if you think of anyone who, if you're talking about your dreams, if you're going to win the lottery, what are the things people say they're going to buy? Property. And cars. Vacations. But it's always property, right? People know. You know that's a safe bet. Everyone knows that. It's not a hard sell. So, as a host of The Real Well Show, I just started interviewing people, just like this kind of situation where I'd go up to you and say, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? Tell me what you're doing." And I would just interview, and pretty soon I was able to find people, and the idea was that they'd be millionaires and self-made millionaires, and they would show us how they did it, and we could learn. I could learn, and my listeners could learn. And so I ended up having a mortgage broker come on and sponsor the show, which was one way I was able to leverage myself and my talents, which was I had a radio show. Maybe I could sell sponsorships. I did. That helped bring in some money. And one of them was a mortgage broker. So it just turned out this guy also was a real estate investor and really understood how to use leverage, OPM, conventional, through banks, but using the leverage to buy more real estate. And so our show just kept growing, and it became more successful, and people started to see it. I started to see it and learn it. And do you remember that moment? You were like, oh, I think I can do this in real estate. Like, this makes sense. And it started to make sense for me. It made sense for our audience. And all of a sudden, everybody wanted to get loans and buy real estate. And my sponsor said, you should probably become a mortgage broker and do these loans. So I did, and suddenly I had a business. And the radio show, I became a mortgage broker, and I put it into action. I refinanced that home and bought 14 properties. So, not all at once, but that was what the plan was. And then pretty soon, but because I had the show, and right about then, it was 2005 probably when I started buying, You might be going, oh, bad timing. But because I had the radio show, I was able to interview a lot of experts who had been through cycles and understood cycles and knew that we had a really big problem in California. And I knew we had a big problem in California because I had the ability, I wouldn't do it, but I had the ability to give a homeless person a loan. I could give anyone a loan. It was so easy. I could give you a $5 million loan on a NINA loan, no income, no assets. It was so easy. It was ridiculous. And you know what I could make on that loan? I could make $50,000 commission. You know, so it was craziness at the time. And if you really paid attention, you didn't have to pay attention. There was obviously something very, very wrong. But the people that, because of the show, I was able to learn from people who were in the industry much longer than me, 30, 40 years, and talk to them and interview them and find out what is going on. Is this normal? And they said, of course it's not normal. There's a bubble and there's a problem, and California is unaffordable as a result of it, and it's going to pop. But there are other places in the country where that hasn't happened. And at the time, it was Texas. Because Texas had very strict lending laws, didn't go through some of that bubble craziness, and a lot of people were selling California and buying in Texas. And so the more we researched that, we found out that that was a really brilliant plan, because you could sell. I had clients that maybe had 3 properties in Stockton, California that were worth $420,000 each, something like that. And each of those 3 properties made $1,200 in rent. And I was able to show them, well, you know, you could buy 4 properties in Texas, $100,000 each, that each rent for $1,200. So now you could sell your 3 Stockton properties, buy 12, did I get that right? 12 properties, and I mean new, nice homes in Texas, and quadruple your income. So where would be the bubble there? Right? I mean, first of all, how much could a $100,000 home go down in value? You know, it costs $100,000 to build it. So that was the first thing. It just made more sense. And second, what if the value went down to $50,000? It would only hurt me if the rents were also going down, which they weren't. Right? So this is when I learned there's a different game out there. It's not appreciation. It's not buy this and hope it makes more, which it sometimes does. I mean, that White House, we bought for $500,000. It appraised for 1.8 10 years later. So appreciation is really fun when it works, except for the person who then I sell it to pays 1.8 and then it's worth half that a few years later. Then it's no fun. But can you make money in an appreciating market? Of course you can. Can you lose it? Yeah. But when you're playing the cash flow game, it doesn't hurt as much in those cycles. It can, unless you do it right. And coming back to my mom's pastor, he owns most of his homes in Chico, and it probably bought when they were $100,000 homes, right? So did my mom's pastor care that his homes maybe lost half their value in the last 7 years?
Paid for free and clear. Didn't matter.
It didn't matter. Even if it wasn't, would he care? No, because did the rents go down? He wasn't planning to sell them. He lives off the income. It's income property. So no, he didn't lose a wink of sleep because he was playing the cash flow game. So that has been my message, and what I've been trying to show people and teach people is that California is fun, but it's got its pros and cons, and it's important to know what else is out there and compare. Just be educated and know. So then when you add leverage onto that, and I'm sure you've heard that real estate is a great hedge against inflation, right? You've heard that. It is, but but when it's leveraged, when you've got a loan against it, then it's really a great hedge against inflation. And why would that be?
You have very little of your own money invested.
Yes, because in an inflationary economy, as the dollar weakens and as prices go up, mainly, that dollar is weakening. So if you've got savings or you're sitting on cash, that means your cash is also becoming less valuable. But if you have debt, now your debt is becoming less debtful. It's becoming less, it's the same sort of decrease. And so why does the government love inflation? To inflate itself out of debt, right? If $100 is really going to feel like $200 tomorrow, that debt suddenly feels half as bad. And so if we can't fight our government and its determination to put us in an inflationary economy, it's a stated goal. Why is that good for us? Why is it good for the consumer to have to pay more every year for stuff?
Without debt, the entire world would just stop. Grind to a stop. Stores, grocery markets,
It would, but
homes,
why
retail.
is it good? Why would the government want to create inflation? Is it good for us to pay more for stuff tomorrow? Then why does the government want that?
It's good for them.
To make, because it's so in debt. It makes it less painful. It's a way to get out of debt without having to charge us taxes. So it's still stealing from us in a very subversive way. And so if you're going to be in this world, one way to survive it is to play their game, which is to also go in debt, but good debt, because you're borrowing this money and it's being kind of paid off in inflationary dollars. So we'll kind of compare how you could build a portfolio using credit. And I may be kind of preaching to the choir here, so I apologize for that. But sometimes it's kind of fun to know you're on track and doing the right thing. But I do want to really emphasize that if you have good credit and you haven't put it to use, you're really missing out on an incredible asset that you will regret someday if you don't use it. A lot of people don't have the credit to use it, and I've got options for you too. But let's just kind of like compare things. And this is going to be super overview. You could challenge it all day long because I'm really just doing a glossy overview, but it still gives you a nice comparison. So let's say Joe uses $100,000 to buy gold because it's inflation and they want gold, it's protecting you, and so he buys $100,000 worth of gold. Mary uses $100,000 to buy stocks on margin, so she gets a little leverage there and buys $200,000 worth of stock with $100,000. Pat, who I've kind of left sort of like the Saturday Night Live Pat, you can't tell the gender here, so Pat uses $100,000, has 20% down to buy properties, and is able to buy $500,000 worth of property with that $100,000. And I'm going to just say it's 5 properties because I like the diversification. Okay, so let's just say 15 years from now, there's never an up or a down, or there's enough of an up and a down that at the end we come out at 5%. All right? Everybody in all those investments come out at 5% increase every year. So now Joe's gold is worth $207,000 at that 5% growth rate, and he's stoked because he doubled his money in 15 years, and he's feeling good about himself. And then you've got Mary, whose stock is now worth $415,000. Her leverage worked. She didn't somehow lose her money in the market. Everything went well for her. And she pays back that $100,000 margin and her $100,000 capital, and she's made a $215,000 profit, and she's feeling really, really good about herself. She did the right thing and loves the stock market. Now Pat's property is worth $1 million now. And that $400,000 loan is now paid down to $200,000. Pat made $700,000 in profit. Okay, again, is it possible that we would have a 5% annual growth rate over the next 15 years?
Yeah.
In all of those things? No. Which one? Yeah. So when you, again, you already know this because that's why you're here, but sometimes it helps to see it and go, wow, I really am smart because I'm doing what Pat's doing here. All right, but there's more. There's more for Pat. Pat's properties weren't just speculation. These were income properties. So there was income. Was there income from the gold? No. Was there income from the stocks? Probably not. Was there income from the properties? Yes. And that's not even calculated in those numbers. So with the positive cash flow, that would have been an additional $200,000 from from those properties. Now, if Pat had put all the cash flow, let's say Pat didn't need that money, but was looking for a quick retirement plan, not quick, but a 15-year plan, didn't need that cash flow those 15 years, and just took all of it, bought the 10 properties, but took all the cash flow to pay off the loan on the first property. That loan could have been paid off in the first, within 4 years. So then, now you've got more cash flow. So all of a sudden you can pay off more and pay them off faster. So it would be possible to pay off those properties in that 15-year time, not using the cash flow at the time, but using it to pay off. So, oops. So then in this case, had Pat done that, in 15 years, Pat would have $1 million equity plus that ongoing income stream for life. I don't know about you, but I don't know any investment who does that. I mean, is there anything else? Maybe oil and gas. But you got to get the right oil and gas, right? I mean, you could dig a lot and not get it. But this, when I saw this, I just couldn't believe it. This is some of the things I learned early on. And I had been, my husband was a best-selling author and a speaker, and I was, in the acting business, and it was always just such an unknown. Are people going to buy your books, or someone going to book me for the jobs? It was just, I couldn't count on it. So why did my daughter choose acting? I don't know. Because it's so hard. And it's so unpredictable, and you could be the best you could be and still not get the role. But in this, it's pretty much predictable. You just got to do things right, and you can end up with a millionaire. You can end up a millionaire. You just do things right. So that doesn't even include the tax deductions. And I don't like including tax deductions because they could go away. But right now, we still have them. And you know what? They're really, really good, and they could save you even more. To a point where if you owned that much rental property, you could be considered a real estate professional, talk to your CPAs about these things, to a point where you would maybe not be paying any tax. Who here is a real estate professional tax-wise?
Well, I think my rate was about 12%.
Okay, you really, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah. So I mean, there have been years where I've paid 0 in taxes, and it's really kind of unfair because we're the ones building the portfolios, and I'm not sure we should be the ones not also paying taxes, but that's the way it works. Let's take advantage of it. And I don't need to tell you too much, but this was something Obama said. I want to provide a tax cut for 95% of Americans. So if you make less than $250,000 a year, you will not see a single dime of your taxes going up. But the rest of you, you will. So we want these tax benefits. And make sure you understand them. So that, I get this question all the time of, well, gosh, if I buy an investment property, will I still get the great write-offs that I get on my primary? Yeah, that and some. But again, you guys already know this. You can write off your mortgage interest, your property taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, professional fees, these meetings, education, travel to your properties. Beautiful thing. Not to mention depreciation. If you qualify for the depreciation write-offs, you get another wonderful tax break. But again, you've got to understand it. Unlike my father, who found himself in a very stressful situation. And then, of course, the 1031 exchange should defer your taxes. Again, I don't know any other investment that offers these kinds of tax breaks. Amazing. All right. And of course, buying, a lot of people still don't know, I know you guys know, but you can buy real estate in your IRA. A lot of people still don't know that. We're trying to get the message out. All right, so I'll just go through this quickly and talk about it. These are real people in our network. Ryan is a 29-year-old. It's good for you to listen to. Everybody's got a different sort of strategy, and when you're young, you can use a different strategy, which is more of a long-term plan. So Ryan, 29 years old, he was making a lot of money. He didn't have a family, was single, and so what he really needed was the tax benefits. Mark was 40 years old when he came to us, worked for a startup, and really just needed a backup plan and some extra cash flow. So that was his goal. Marie was 55 years old and just getting real close to retirement and needing to speed that up. So what we did for Mark is we put him on the buy-in refi plan. And this is a, you know, this requires a little bit more hands-on work, as you know.